would eventually carry his triplets, and he would forsake an empire for her heart. But for Laura Scott, it all began when her coffee exploded on the sidewalk, a moment before she did the same. She'd been hurrying along King Street in Charleston's charming historic district, her portfolio clutched in one arm, a ridiculously expensive latte in the other. One moment she was upright. The next, she was tumbling toward the cobblestones, her presentation boards fanning out across the ground like a losing hand of cards. Before her face could connect with the brick, strong hands gripped her shoulders. Whoa, easy there. I've got you. Hello again, family. You've tuned into Tales That Touch, where we dive into heartfelt sagas of love. Because ultimately, love and death are the two things we can never truly avoid. We never know the when, the how, or the where. It can find you at any time. If you're just discovering our channel, please subscribe and activate the notification bell this instant so you won't miss the next chapter. And for our cherished returning viewers, we are so grateful for you. We truly appreciate your support. Now, stick around for the rest of this tale. Share your reactions in the comments and give this video a like. Let's get back to it. Laura gazed up into a pair of gray eyes that were the color of storm clouds gathering over the harbor. The man steadying her had unruly dark brown hair, a jawline sculpted for a fragrance commercial, and a look of such sincere worry it made her stomach do a nervous backflip for reasons entirely separate from the fall. "I am so incredibly sorry," he murmured, his touch surprisingly gentle for a man of his stature as he helped her stand. He stood at least 6'2", maybe even 6'3". I was completely distracted. "No, that was all me," Laura insisted, smoothing down her navy dress while trying to ignore the tremor in her hands. It wasn't from the near fall, but from the fact that his hand lingered on her elbow, as if he feared she might just crumple. "I was practically sprinting. Are you all right?" He crouched, carefully collecting her scattered boards. His suit likely cost more than her monthly car note, actually. It probably cost more than her entire car. "I'm fine. Just my dignity is bruised." Laura knelt to help him, grabbing for her portfolio, and their fingers grazed. She snatched her hand back as if she'd felt an electric jolt. He saw it. Naturally, he saw it. The faintest hint of a smile touched his lips as he passed her the designs. "These are phenomenal. You're an architect. I take it, trying to become one," Laura admitted, inspecting them for any scuffs. "My presentation is in 20 minutes, which explains the power walk. And the tragic loss of your coffee," he added, glancing at the brown stain seeping into the stones. "Where is this meeting?" "The old Cotton Exchange building. On the ground floor." His whole expression changed. "Is that right? At what time?" 9:30. "Why?" Laura checked her phone. It was 9:12. She was about to be late and without her caffeine fix. A stellar combination. "Because I'm headed to the same meeting." He offered his hand. "Melvin Anderson, from Anderson Global Properties." Oh, this was bad. So bad. Laura accepted his handshake because her mother raised her to be polite, even as her entire professional future was nosediving before her very eyes. "Laura Scott. Scott, Architectural Design," she added. "You're the architect they've brought on." A broad smile spread across his face, a genuine warmth that took him from handsome to absolutely stunning. "I've been looking forward to meeting you. Your work on the Gadsden Street project was exceptional." "You're familiar with my work. I recognize brilliant architecture when I come across it." Melvin glanced at his own watch, a Rolex. Because of course it was. "We're both going to miss this meeting if we just stand here. Shall we walk over together?" Laura's mind was racing to keep up. This was Melvin Anderson. The Melvin Anderson. The billionaire tycoon in real estate. The visionary who had transformed his father's failing business into an international powerhouse before he was even 35. He was the man whose endorsement could launch her small firm into the stratosphere or crush it. And she'd just baptized the street at his feet with her latte. "I would like that," she managed to say. As they began walking, Laura became intensely conscious of every little thing. The subtle way he shortened his stride to match hers. The way he instinctively positioned himself on the side closer to the street. And the delicate fragrance of cedar and something rich that made her want to draw nearer. "So, walk me through your concept for the building," Melvin prompted. "The historical preservation requirements are quite demanding." This was a subject Laura knew well, and she began to relax. That's precisely what makes it so thrilling. Charleston's heritage isn't about preserving buildings in amber. It's about respecting the past while building a future. The Cotton Exchange has a beautiful structure that commands respect. But it also has to live again. I like that idea. "Letting it live," he murmured, looking over at her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. Buildings need to have a pulse. They shouldn't feel like dusty museums. Exactly. Laura's passion spilled out, the way it always did when she found someone who truly got it. The challenge is finding the harmony between the Historical Commission's mandates and the need for modern functionality and access. I have some thoughts for the central courtyard that I believe could. She cut herself off. "I'm sorry. I'm rambling." "Never apologize." Melvin's voice was low but resolute. "Passion is the ingredient that fuels all great creations. I'd be concerned if you weren't this excited about it." They arrived at the Cotton Exchange. The morning light bathed the old brick in a warm, honey-colored glow. Laura had passed this building countless times, dreaming of a chance to work on a project of this scale. And now, she was standing here with him. "Before we head inside," Melvin began, turning to face her directly, "I need you to know something. The coffee doesn't matter. The fact that we ran into each other on the street is irrelevant. What matters to me is your vision for this building. So when we walk in there, you're not the woman who bumped into me. You're the architect whose portfolio I have been tracking for the last 2 years. The one who spots opportunities where everyone else just sees roadblocks. Is that clear?" Laura felt a lump form in her throat. 2 years. He had been aware of her work for 2 whole years. "Understood," she whispered. His grin was bright enough to illuminate the entire historic district. "Excellent. Now, let's go prove that your ideas are every bit as remarkable as I suspect they are." The presentation was more successful than she could have ever hoped. Melvin posed intelligent questions. He challenged her on her premises, compelling her to dig deeper and refine her concepts. He grasped not just the structural details, but the soul of the project, the way a room can influence emotion, the interplay of light and dark, and the narratives that buildings hold. By the end of it, Laura's hands were steady. She felt energized, vibrant. "When are you available to start?" Melvin inquired. Laura blinked, startled. "What?" "The project is yours, if you'll have it." He settled back in his chair, looking perfectly relaxed in what was surely a $5,000 conference room. "I'll have my legal team draw up the contract this week." Just like that. "It's that simple," Melvin said, rising and offering his hand once more. "I go with my gut, Laura, and my gut is telling me you are precisely what this building needs." Laura shook his hand, fighting the urge to notice how secure it felt in his. "Thank you. I won't let you down." "I'm sure you won't." He held her gaze for a second too long. "Join me for lunch. We need to go over the project timeline." "Lunch?" Her voice squeaked out, higher than she'd intended. "Unless you've already made other arrangements." There was a flicker of uncertainty in his question, as if he was bracing for rejection. Laura considered her other arrangements, eating a lonely salad at her desk, calling her Aunt Patricia to fret about finances, and faking that she wasn't completely alone in a city she'd called home for 3 years, but still felt like a stranger in. I have no other plans. Melvin's entire demeanor brightened. There was that smile again, the one that could make her forget her own name. Wonderful. I know just the place. The place turned out to be a cozy little eatery tucked away in a quiet alley by the water. It wasn't extravagant, even though Melvin could likely purchase the entire street without a second thought. It was authentic, the type of establishment where the proprietor greeted regulars by name. Mr. Anderson. A kind-faced, older black woman with silver in her hair enveloped Melvin in a warm hug. Where have you been hiding? We thought you'd abandoned us. Never, Claudia, Melvin replied, hugging her back with genuine warmth. Work has been overwhelming. How is your daughter doing? She just graduated from nursing school. Finished at the top of her class. That's fantastic. Please pass on my congratulations. Claudia then turned her wise gaze to Laura. And who is this lovely young lady? This is Laura Scott. She's our architect for the Cotton Exchange renovation. Melvin held a chair for Laura at a table in the corner. Laura, meet Claudia. She makes the finest she-crab soup in all of Charleston. In the entire state. Claudia gently corrected. Will you be having your usual? Please. Laura. The soup sounds amazing, Laura said, feeling completely thrown. This was not how billionaires were meant to behave. They didn't embrace restaurant owners like old friends. They didn't inquire about their daughters. They didn't have a way of making you feel as if you were the most important person in the world. After Claudia had gone, Melvin noticed her watching him. What is it? It's nothing. It's just... You aren't at all what I pictured. And what did you picture? He leaned in, his curiosity seeming completely sincere. Laura measured her words. Someone more corporate, I suppose. Less real. Having money doesn't strip away your humanity. A shadow crossed his features, a flash of what might have been pain. Sometimes, it just makes you more isolated. That raw honesty in his confession left her breathless. Here sat this immensely powerful, successful, and brilliant man, admitting his own loneliness as if it were the most ordinary thing imaginable. I understand that, Laura responded softly, for entirely different reasons. But I do understand. Tell me. It wasn't a demand, but a gentle invitation. And then, against all odds, Laura heard herself telling him about her mother's sudden death from a stroke 4 years prior. She spoke about being left with a mountain of medical bills, guilt, and grief all twisted into one, and about launching her own firm because her mother had always told her she had a gift for seeing beauty that others overlooked. She talked about how Charleston felt both like a refuge and a foreign land. And through it all, Melvin listened as if every single word she said mattered, as if she mattered. He passed 5 years back, Melvin said quietly after she was done speaking. His heart just gave out. He was only 58. Robert Anderson forged his empire from the ground up, ran himself into an early grave, and all that success couldn't buy him a single extra heartbeat. I'm so sorry. So am I. A muscle in his jaw clenched. The man taught me how to conquer the boardroom, but not a thing about how to live. I'm still trying to navigate the difference. Just then, their soup was served, and a curtain of steam rose between them, heavy with things left unsaid. The meal became a blur of conversation, and the hours simply melted away. He opened up about a childhood spent trying to escape the colossal shadow of his father, perpetually fighting to carve out his own identity. Laura, in turn, described being the trailblazer in her family, the first to graduate from college, bearing the weight of all their dreams. Do you ever feel like you're just playing a role you were handed? The question tumbled from Laura's lips, astonishing her as much as it seemed to him. His reply was a low, steady, every single day, and his slate-gray eyes captured hers, refusing to let go. My entire existence has been dedicated to acquisition companies, properties, creating this sprawling empire. But lately, I've started to wonder what the endgame is. What's the value of a kingdom if you're ruling it alone? Her heart thudded against her ribs. Perhaps the purpose is discovering a person who inspires you to become something else, someone better. Is that what you're looking for? To be better? I want to be significant, Laura confessed, her voice barely a whisper. Not for my career, just you are. The conviction in his tone sent a tremor through her. Believe me, Laura, you are significant. The space separating them crackled with an unseen energy, a palpable current that felt one spark away from combustion. Melvin's phone vibrated on the table. A quick look at the screen brought a frown to his face. I've got a conference call in an hour. Investors from overseas. The spell was broken. Reality came rushing back in. Of course, billionaires have meetings. The work of building an empire doesn't pause for an impromptu lunch with a stranger. I should get going, Laura said, reaching for her bag. Thank you for the meal, and for considering me, Laura. His hand shot out, capturing hers. Come to dinner with me tonight. No shop talk. Just you and me. Us. Her voice was a faint echo. I can't get you out of my head. Not since our collision this morning. His thumb began to draw lazy circles on her skin. I realize this is sudden, and I know it's likely a dreadful idea. But I need to know more about you. The real you. Am I being insane? Yes. She breathed. Completely. Her gaze fell on this man, who had literally stumbled into her world, like destiny dressed in bespoke tailoring. 1,000 reasons to refuse screamed in her mind. Professional ethics, the glaring imbalance of power, the fragile state of a heart held together by little more than willpower and prayer. Yet, when she spoke, the only words that emerged were, 7 o'clock. A smile broke across Melvin's face that was brilliant enough to halt rush hour. I'll come get you. Just put your address in here. He slid his phone across the table, with hands that trembled. Laura entered her details, her mind reeling in disbelief. Stepping out of the restaurant, the Charleston air seemed to embrace her. The sun felt gentler on her skin. It was as if the entire city had suddenly burst into vibrant color. Laura reached for her phone to dial her best friend, Sienna, but paused. A feeling washed over her, a dreadful, exhilarating, and completely terrifying premonition that Melvin Anderson was a force of nature about to reshape her world. And against all better judgment, a part of her was desperate for him to do it. Laura had tried on 4 different dresses before Sienna intervened. Okay, that's enough. Sienna physically blocked her path to the closet. You are gorgeous. The man is clearly already smitten. Take a breath. This is a huge mistake, Laura whispered, looking at the stranger in the mirror. Her skin seemed to radiate warmth in the emerald wrap dress, a stark contrast to the tremor in her hands. Sienna, he's a billionaire. I literally ran into him hours ago, and now he's taking me on a date. It's completely crazy. It's the plot of a romance novel, Sienna countered. Reaching out, Sienna straightened the delicate gold chain around Laura's neck, her mother's. When was the last time you just let something nice happen to you? Laura honestly couldn't recall. In the years since her mother's passing, Life had been a relentless grind of survival, establishing her firm, clearing debts, and showing the world she was capable. Romance had always seemed like an indulgence far beyond her means. "What if I ruin everything?" she whispered. "So, you ruin it," Sienna said, giving her shoulders a firm squeeze. "But what if this is it? What if he's the one you've been holding out for all this time?" The chime of the doorbell sliced through the air. Laura's heart seized, sputtered, and then began to race as if she were in a sprint. "He's here," she choked out. "Well, go let him in," Sienna urged, giving her a gentle nudge toward the front door. "And for goodness sake, Laura, remember to breathe." Laura pulled the door open. There on her doorstep stood Melvin, dressed down in dark wash jeans and a heather gray Henley that perfectly mirrored his eyes. He was casual, effortlessly handsome, and holding a single, perfect white gardenia. "Hi," he said, "and that smile. Dear God, that smile." "Hi." She managed back. She found she couldn't look away. Earlier today, he was Melvin Anderson, the titan of industry in a power suit. This man, however, felt infinitely more authentic and far more of a threat to her well-fortified heart. "I brought this for you," he said, offering her the gardenia. "Claudia mentioned it was your favorite flower." "How would she?" Laura trailed off, the realization dawning. "You spoke to her." "I wanted to make a good impression," Melvin admitted, a touch of bashfulness in his expression. "Is that too much? I worried it might be." "It's perfect," Laura breathed, lifting the blossom to inhale its scent. Her mother had cultivated gardenias in the small patch of earth behind their house. The familiar fragrance instantly stung her eyes with tears she couldn't hold back. "Laura." Melvin's face filled with concern. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine. It's nothing. It's just, my mom adored these flowers," she explained, hastily brushing a tear away. "I'm sorry. I'm being ridiculous." "You're stunning," he stated, as if it were an indisputable truth. "And I'm happy the flower has meaning for you. Shall we?" Laura snatched her purse, shouted a farewell to Sienna, and allowed Melvin to guide her outside to his vehicle. It wasn't some ostentatious sports car designed to make a statement. Instead, a polished black Range Rover waited at the curb, understated, yet likely worth more than her yearly salary. He held her door open, waiting for her to get comfortable before circling to the driver's side with an old-fashioned courtesy. "So, what's our destination?" Laura inquired, once they were moving with the flow of traffic. "That's a surprise," Melvin replied, shooting her a look that made her stomach do a nervous little somersault. "Have a little faith in me." This was reckless. She hardly knew the man. This was insane. "Yes," she heard herself say, "I trust you." They left the city behind them, just as the setting sun began to paint the clouds in hues of gold and pink. Melvin navigated a series of country roads unfamiliar to Laura, and with the windows down, the mild spring evening air swirled around them. "Tell me a secret," he said out of the blue, "something no one else knows." Laura's first instinct was to give a safe, superficial answer. But instead, she confessed. "Sometimes I have full conversations with my mom in my apartment, as if she's still there to listen." A self-conscious laugh escaped her. "Sienna is convinced I'm going crazy." "You're not going crazy," Melvin said, his voice soft. "Every Sunday, I go to my father's gravesite. I update him on the company, ask for his guidance, even though I know he won't reply. Grief has its own set of rules." "No," Laura agreed in a quiet voice. "It certainly does. Now it's your turn to ask." Do you have any regrets about creating the empire? About the constant work? Melvin remained silent for what felt like an eternity before answering. Every single day. My dad collapsed at his desk. He had a massive heart attack in the middle of a conference call, negotiating some deal I can't even remember now. I was the one who found him. His knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. I promised myself I would never become him, that I'd never let the job devour me whole. And then I went and did the exact same thing. But you're not at work now, Laura gently reminded him. You're here, with me. This is different. Yes. He turned to look at her then, and the sheer force of his gaze stole the air from her lungs. It really is. Vessels of all sizes swayed peacefully in the water, their surfaces mirroring the first stars dotting the twilight sky. This way, Melvin said, exiting the car and once again coming around to her side. Laura let him lead her down a weathered wooden dock toward a stunning sailboat, not garish or massive, but timelessly elegant. She's yours. She's my one true extravagance. With a firm grip, Melvin assisted her onto the deck. I purchased her 5 years ago, just after my dad passed. I hoped getting out on the water would help me think. Turns out, I was right. Does she have a name? Phoenix. Melvin moved about the vessel with a practiced ease, illuminating lanterns that bathed the deck in a warm, golden glow. For rising from the ashes, Laura whispered, a lump forming in her throat. That's lovely. So are you. He said it with such profound sincerity that Laura felt another one of her carefully constructed walls begin to give way. She saw then that Melvin had arranged a simple dinner on deck. It wasn't elaborate, but it was incredibly thoughtful artisan bread. Local cheeses, fresh fruit, and wine, a perfect meal for sharing under a sky full of stars. This is absolutely amazing, Laura murmured, making herself comfortable on the pillows he'd set out. How did you manage to put this all together? I have a very capable team. Seeing the look on her face, he chuckled. All right, you caught me. I did it. I actually ducked out of the office early. My assistant nearly fainted from the shock. When was the last time you did that? To be honest, I can't recall, Melvin said as he filled 2 glasses with wine. But this was worth it. It flowed effortlessly between them. Melvin recounted stories of his grandfather, the man who taught him to sail, and the only family member who ever suggested there was more to life than accumulating wealth. Laura described her mother's hands, which were never still, always cultivating something beautiful. Whether it was gardens or meals, she could create beauty from thin air. I think she would have approved of you, Laura found herself saying. Yeah. Melvin moved nearer, their shoulders now brushing against each other, the heat arcing between them unmistakable. She used to say I needed a partner who could see beyond my defenses. Laura swirled the wine in her glass. I constructed these barriers so high after she passed away. I convinced myself I had to be fiercely independent, that relying on anyone was a sign of weakness. Relying on someone isn't a weakness. In the soft lantern light, Melvin's hand covered hers. It's a sign of courage. Laura shifted to look at him directly. Why me, Melvin? You could be with anyone you want. Why choose to be here, with me? Because you're authentic, he said, his thumb stroking her palm. It was the same simple touch from lunch that had unraveled her then, and was doing it all over again. For the past 5 years, every woman I've been with has been interested in the name, the wealth, the position. You, on the other hand, collided with me on a public sidewalk, had no idea who I was, and proceeded to debate building design as if it were the most important topic in the world. For the first time, I felt like you saw a woman, not a financial statement. You are a woman, Laura murmured, giving her hand a gentle squeeze, an absolutely incredible one. And I want to know every single thing about you. Melvin's voice deepened, becoming more intimate. Your favorite color, what truly terrifies you, the things that make you laugh until you cry, the dreams you keep locked away, too afraid to even whisper. That seems like a lot to cover on a first date. In that case, he said, we'll just have to plan for a second, a third, and then 1,000 more. He gently cupped her cheek with his free hand, his touch surprisingly tender. I'm not playing games with you, Laura. I'm far too old for that. I am 36 years old. I've built the empire my father always demanded, but I've been running on empty my entire life. Until I met you this morning. Laura felt a familiar sting behind her eyes. I'm so scared. Me too, he admitted, his voice laced with a vulnerability that mirrored her own as he rested his forehead against hers. But I would rather face my fears with you than feel safe and be alone. The kiss was as inevitable and undeniable as gravity itself. His lips were soft, asking a question, and Laura's response was a tidal wave of every emotion she had held in check. It was the release of 3 years of profound loneliness, 4 years of suffocating grief, and an entire lifetime spent waiting for someone to make her feel exactly this way. Melvin kissed her with intention, as if she were something infinitely precious, as if he had been searching for her just as long as she had been longing for him. When they finally broke apart, Laura was trembling. Wow, was all she could breathe out. Yeah. Melvin's voice was thick with emotion. Wow. They remained like that, foreheads touching, fingers intertwined, as the boat swayed softly beneath them. There's something I probably ought to tell you, Laura said, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't have money. Most months. I'm just scraping by. I have medical debt from my mom's illness that I'll be paying off for years. My apartment is ridiculously small. My car is basically held together by duct tape and wishful thinking. If this is going to go anywhere, you deserve to know exactly what you're getting into. I already know what I'm getting, Melvin said, pulling back just enough to meet her gaze. I see a woman brave enough to build her own business from the ground up. I see someone who creates beauty in the world to honor her mother's memory. I see a person who inspires me to be a better man. That is what I'm getting. Laura, everything else is just noise. Just noise. Laura let out a laugh that sounded suspiciously like a sob. Spoken like a true billionaire. Spoken like a man who just discovered something more valuable than all his money. He countered. Melvin rose to his feet, bringing her with him. Dance with me. But there's no music. We don't need any. He drew her in, one hand resting on the small of her back, the other clasping hers against his heart. They moved together in a slow rhythm, swaying to the gentle sound of the water against the boat, the faint cry of distant birds, and the cadence of their own hearts, beating as one. Laura leaned her head against his shoulder, allowing herself to be fully present in this moment. She let herself dream of a future where this feeling wouldn't just vanish, where love was real, and where she wasn't shouldering every burden by herself. I want to help you, Melvin whispered into her hair, with your debt, your business, with anything you need. And this was it, the moment where her pride was supposed to kick in, where she was expected to refuse his charity and insist she could do it all alone. But Laura thought of her mother, who had graciously accepted casseroles from neighbors during the tough times and always paid their kindness back tenfold later. She thought about how bone-deep weary she was from carrying it all on her own. That's incredibly generous of you, she said, choosing her words with care. Can we talk about it later? To figure out what might actually work. She felt the tension leave his body as he relaxed against her. Of course. Whatever makes you feel comfortable. I just want to help lighten your load. Thank you, Laura said, looking up at him. That means more than you know. We're a team now, he said, placing a soft kiss on her forehead. You and me, against whatever comes our way. Whatever comes. Laura repeated softly. They lingered on the boat late into the night, talking about everything that mattered and nothing at all. Melvin confessed that he wanted children one day, describing the family he'd always pictured, but had never made the time to start. Laura admitted her own fear of motherhood, wondering how she could ever manage without her own mom there to guide her. You would be a phenomenal mother, Melvin said with such conviction that it made Laura's heart ache with hope. When he finally took her home, the last thing Laura wanted was for the night to be over. You should come to Sunday dinner, she heard herself blurt out as they lingered on her doorstep. My Aunt Patricia hosts one every single week. It's loud, it's a little chaotic, and she always makes way too much food. But I want you to meet her. To meet the people who are my world. I would be honored, Melvin said. And then he kissed her again, this time slower, deeper, a silent promise of all that was yet to come. Can I see you before then? How about tomorrow? Yes. Laura answered without a moment's hesitation. Absolutely. Yes. Good. He gave her one last kiss. Sleep well. Laura Scott. You too. Melvin Anderson. Laura felt like she was floating as she climbed the stairs to her apartment. Sienna was waiting up for her, wide awake even though it was nearly midnight. Well, Sienna demanded, arms crossed. Laura gently touched her lips, which were still tingling from his kiss. I think I might be in serious trouble. Good trouble or bad trouble. The absolute best kind. Laura sank onto the couch, a giddy, foolish grin spreading across her face. Sienna, what if this is actually real? Then you better hang on with both hands, Sienna said, wrapping her in a hug. Because I have a feeling a man like Melvin Anderson doesn't let go of things he wants. Neither do I, Laura whispered to herself. Outside, Charleston was bursting into its spring bloom. But inside Laura's heart, something far more precious was starting to take root. And for the first time since her mother had passed, she allowed herself to feel hope. 3 weeks later, Laura woke up wrapped in Melvin's arms and marveled at how profoundly her entire world had changed. They had spent time together every single day since that first boat ride. Sometimes it was for hours on end. Other times it was just a few stolen moments between his meetings, a quick coffee before work, a shared lunch at Claudia's, or long nights on the Phoenix, talking until the stars began to fade from the sky. Now, on this Sunday morning, Laura was cocooned in Egyptian cotton sheets that likely cost more than her rent, watching the early sunlight spill across Melvin's bedroom in streaks of gold. You're staring, he rumbled, his eyes still closed. You're ridiculously handsome, Laura replied, tracing the strong line of his jaw. I'm allowed to stare. Melvin's eyes fluttered open, gray and full of warmth. Good morning, she whispered, leaning in to kiss him. 3 weeks, and she still couldn't get used to this feeling, waking up beside someone who looked at her as if she single-handedly lit up the sky. What time is dinner at your aunt's? Melvin asked, pulling her in closer. 4 o'clock, which means we have. Laura glanced at the clock. 8 hours to get you ready. Prepare me. He chuckled. Should I be concerned? Aunt Patricia can be intense. She raised me after my mom passed away. She is fiercely protective, and she will 100% interrogate you. I think I can handle a protective aunt. Melvin kissed her forehead. I want to meet everyone who is important to you. All of them. Laura felt a familiar squeeze in her chest. He really meant it. In just 3 weeks, Melvin had learned her exact coffee order, memorized her complicated work schedule, and even shown up at her office with lunch on days he knew she would be too busy to eat. He had held her as she cried on the anniversary of her mom's birthday. He had listened patiently to her frustrations about difficult clients and confusing building codes without a hint of boredom. He had seamlessly become a vital part of her life, and that terrified her more than anything. Hey, Melvin said, gently tipping her chin up to meet his gaze. Where did you just go? I'm here, Laura said, forcing a smile. I was just thinking about how quickly all of this is moving, how wonderful it feels, and how scared I am that it's all going to vanish. Melvin was silent for a long moment. Do you need us to slow down? No. The word escaped her with a fierce intensity. That's the whole problem. I don't want to slow down at all. I want more of this. I want everything. And that is so unlike me. Maybe it was unlike the old you, Melvin said softly. But people are allowed to change. Grief changes people. Loss has a way of teaching you that life is far too short to always play it safe. Is that what this is? Us playing it unsafe? I'm falling in love with you. Laura, he stated, his voice as calm and certain as if he were declaring a simple fact. If that's unsafe, then yes, that is exactly what we are doing. Laura's breath hitched in her throat. Melvin, I know this is fast. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm 36 years old. Laura, I've been in relationships. I know what this isn't. And I know precisely what this is. This is real. This is the very thing I've been building my entire life for. Without even realizing it, I'm falling for you, too. Laura confessed in a whisper, so fast and so hard that it scares me. Then let's be scared together, he murmured. He kissed her then. A kiss that was deep and slow and filled with unspoken promises. And now, let's go meet your aunt. Aunt Patricia resided in a tidy bungalow in North Charleston, the kind of home that radiated the scent of Sunday dinner for at least 3 blocks in every direction. Laura could already smell the fried chicken and collard greens before Melvin had even finished parking his Range Rover. That smells absolutely divine, Melvin said. Just wait until you actually taste it, Laura replied, giving his hand a reassuring squeeze. And just remember, she is going to put you through the ringer. It's nothing personal. Everything about you is personal to me, Melvin said quietly. And that includes your aunt. They walked up the porch steps hand in hand. The front door swung open before Laura even had a chance to knock. Aunt Patricia stood in the doorway, 59 years old and looking formidable in her Sunday best, her sharp eyes giving Melvin a thorough top-to-bottom evaluation. Aunt Patricia, this is Melvin Anderson. Melvin, this is my aunt, Patricia Scott. Miss Scott, Melvin said, extending a hand. It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me into your home. Patricia accepted his handshake. Her grip was firm. So, you're the billionaire. I'm the man who is completely captivated by your niece, Melvin corrected, his tone gentle but firm. Something in Patricia's expression softened ever so slightly. It wasn't quite approval, but it was close. Well, come on in, Will. Then, she said, stepping back to let them pass. Dinner is almost on the table. The house was just as Laura remembered it from 1,000 other Sunday afternoons. Every available surface was covered in photographs. Her mom's bright smile beamed out from countless frames. There was Laura at her college graduation, and pictures of family gatherings that stretched back for generations. "Your mother was a beautiful woman," Melvin remarked, pausing before a photo of Laura with her mom. "She really was," Laura said, her fingers grazing the edge of the frame. Inside and out. Laura got her eyes. Patricia called out from the kitchen doorway, and she got her stubborn heart, too. Melvin turned to Laura with a smile that made her feel weak in the knees. Dinner was every bit as incredible as Laura had promised. The fried chicken was so tender, it fell right off the bone. There were collard greens simmered with ham hocks, and a macaroni and cheese so decadent it could bring a tear to your eye. The sweet tea was brewed to absolute perfection. Melvin ate as if he were discovering food for the very first time. "Miss Scott, this is magnificent," he said with genuine awe. "Laura told me you were a fantastic cook. But this is on another level entirely. Flattery will get you nowhere." "Son," Patricia retorted. But this time, she was definitely smiling. "So, what are your intentions with my niece?" Aunt Patricia asked. Laura started to protest. "Aunt Patricia." But Melvin stopped her. "No, it's all right." He placed his fork down and met Patricia's gaze directly. "I'm in love with her. I realize this is all very sudden. I know our worlds are incredibly different, but I am committed to building a life with Laura. I want to be there to champion her dreams, celebrate every success, and be her comfort through any hardship. I want to be the person she comes home to, and I hope I can earn your blessing to be that man." A heavy silence settled over the table. Patricia scrutinized Melvin for a long, tense moment. "You do realize she's special?" "I do. You know she's been through a lot. That she lost her mother far too young, and that she carries burdens no one should have to bear." "I know." "And you still want to be with her, knowing it won't always be simple, that sorrow like hers doesn't just vanish, that she has aspirations bigger than anything your money can buy." "Especially because of all that," Melvin said softly. "Laura inspires me to be a better man, not just a wealthier or more prominent one. A better human being. That is worth everything." Patricia gave a slow, deliberate nod before turning her attention to Laura. "Do you love him?" "Yes, ma'am," Laura whispered. "Does he treat you right? Better than I ever thought possible?" "Then I suppose that settles it." Patricia stood up and began clearing the plates. "Melvin, come help me with dessert. Laura, could you set out the coffee cups?" In the kitchen. Once Laura was out of earshot, Patricia cornered him. "If you hurt her," she warned in a low tone, "I don't give a damn how much money you have. I will make your life an absolute misery. If I ever caused her pain, I would deserve it." Melvin replied evenly. "But Miss Scott, I promise you, I'm here to stay." Patricia studied his face, her eyes searching, then finally nodded. "Good. Because she has already endured too much loss in her life. She doesn't need any more." "I only want to give her joy," Melvin said, "the kind that lasts a lifetime." "In that case," Patricia replied, handing him the peach cobbler, "you and I will get along splendidly. Now get this out to the porch before my niece starts thinking I've scared you away." They enjoyed dessert on Patricia's front porch, wrapped in the gentle spring evening. Patricia shared stories from Laura's childhood, describing a stubborn little girl who was constantly creating elaborate worlds with her blocks. "She gets that from her mother," Patricia said fondly. "My sister could create beauty out of thin air, and she raised a daughter with the exact same magic." "She certainly did," Melvin agreed, his gaze resting on Laura as if she were a priceless piece of art. On the drive back, Laura was unusually quiet. "Is everything okay?" Melvin asked. Tonight meant the world to me. Laura confessed. Having you meet Aunt Patricia, getting her blessing. Family is everything to me. I know. Abruptly, Melvin pulled the car over to the curb of a quiet street. Laura, I need to ask you something. Her heart began to race. What is it? I want you to move in with me. What? She breathed. I know it sounds fast, but we're already together every night, and your apartment is just too small for all the incredible work you're doing. My house has more than enough room, including a space that would make a perfect studio for you, and I want to wake up beside you every single morning, not just sometimes, every time. Laura stared at him, dumbfounded. And there's more, he continued. I'm also establishing a trust in your name. It will cover your mother's remaining medical debt. I'm also investing in your firm, not as a gift, but as a testament to my belief in what you're creating. I want you to have the freedom to design without constantly being stressed about finances. That's far too much. It's not nearly enough, Melvin said, gently cupping her face. Laura, I have more wealth than I could possibly spend in 10 lifetimes. Please, let me use it to make your life easier. Let me help shoulder the burdens you've been carrying all by yourself. Laura's eyes began to burn. Her first instinct was to refuse, to protect her independence at all costs. But then she thought of her mom, who always said that accepting help with grace was a strength in itself. She thought of Aunt Patricia and the exhaustion of having to do everything alone. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Melvin looked astonished. Yes, I'll move in. And we can discuss the trust and the investment. But Melvin, I have to be able to contribute. I need to feel like a partner, not like a project. You are my partner, he said, kissing her with a fierce passion. In every way, this is our life we're building. Together. Together. Laura echoed softly. They remained there, foreheads touching, their future stretching out before them like an open road. I love you, Laura said, speaking the words out loud for the very first time. I love you, too. Melvin's voice was thick with emotion. God, Laura, I love you so much. Then take me home. She smiled through her tears. Our home. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind of packing boxes and making plans. Melvin's house. Their house was magnificent. A historic home in the Battery District, filled with tall windows, intricate crown molding, and an abundance of space. He had already converted an entire room into her dream studio, complete with perfect north-facing light, built-in shelves for her collection of books, and a huge drafting table that nearly made her weep with joy. When did you do all this? Laura asked, walking through the incredible space in absolute wonder. I had it done last week, Melvin said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. I wanted you to feel like this was your space from the start. Not just some place you were staying. It's yours. It's perfect, Laura said, turning within his embrace. You're perfect. Not even close. He chuckled, kissing her tenderly. But I'm trying to be worthy of you. They made every room in the house their own that night, making love in the studio, in the kitchen, and in their bedroom with its stunning view of the harbor, learning each other's bodies like a secret language only they shared. Later, as they lay tangled in the sheets, Laura felt a profound sense of peace settle over her. Are you okay? Melvin asked, always in tune with her moods. I'm happy, Laura said, surprised to realize just how true it was. For the first time since my mom passed, I feel genuinely happy. Me too, he whispered, pulling her closer. You've transformed my whole world. Laura Scott. We transformed each other. She corrected him. Work on her cotton exchange project, meanwhile, was proceeding flawlessly. Laura's days were now filled with designing, and her evenings were spent with Melvin. They settled into a comfortable rhythm, coffee together in the morning, texts back and forth all day, and long dinners filled with conversations about everything and nothing. Melvin introduced her to his mother, Helen, who immediately pulled Laura into a warm hug and whispered, "Thank you for bringing my son back to me." Laura also met Melvin's business partners, who clearly admired him and were thrilled to see him so content. She attended glamorous charity galas on his arm, feeling a bit out of place in designer dresses, but slowly learning to navigate his world. And, in return, Melvin immersed himself in hers. He attended her presentations, asked thoughtful questions, and treated her colleagues with genuine respect. He became a fixture at Aunt Patricia's for Sunday dinner. He even learned to make Laura's favorite tea exactly to her liking. They were building a beautiful life together, completely unaware of the tiny signs that something new was about to begin. There was Laura's constant exhaustion, which she dismissed as work-related stress. There were the sudden waves of nausea from certain smells, and the emotional swings that felt more intense than usual. The truth didn't become undeniable until one mid-April morning, when she found herself staring at 3 positive pregnancy tests in their bathroom. She was pregnant, and their entire world was about to shift in ways they could never have imagined. This is what family is about. If you've followed their story this far, I hope it has moved you. Please leave your thoughts in the comments and let me know where you're watching from. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. If this story meant something to you, showing your support really helps out my channel. Laura sat on the bathroom floor, just staring at the 3 plastic sticks that had just rewritten her entire future. Pregnant. She was pregnant. The word echoed in her head, a persistent bell that refused to be silenced. 6 weeks, maybe 7. The timeline made perfect sense. It had to have been that first night they shared, so lost in each other that precautions became a distant afterthought. Neither of them had given it a second thought until it was much too late. And now, there was a baby, their baby. Laura pressed a hand against her still flat stomach as tears streamed down her face. A war between joy and terror raged inside of her. She had confessed to Melvin just 3 weeks earlier that she was afraid of becoming a mother without her own mom to guide her. Now, that fear was no longer a hypothetical. "Laura." Melvin's voice drifted in from the bedroom. "Babe, are you okay? You've been in there for a while." She glanced at the tests one more time. 3 positive results. There was no room for any doubt. There was no space for denial. "I'm fine," she called out, her voice cracking on the lie. "Just give me a minute." She heard his footsteps approach the door, and then stop. He was waiting, because that's what Melvin did. He always gave her space when she needed it, but he never went far. Laura got up on trembling legs, splashed some cold water on her face, and tried to get a hold of herself. But when she looked in the mirror, she saw her mom's eyes staring back at her, the very same eyes that had gazed at Laura on the day she was born, the same eyes that would never get to see this grandchild. A fresh wave of tears came, and Laura let them fall. She had to tell him. She had to walk out that door and say the words that would change both of their lives forever. But fear kept her rooted to the spot. What if he wasn't ready for this? What if it was all too much, too fast? What if Laura, Melvin's voice, gentle and concerned, came from just outside the door? Whatever it is, we will face it together. Remember, we are a team. Those words broke through her panic. Laura opened the door. Melvin stood there in sweatpants and a t-shirt, his hair messy from sleep, and a look of worry on his face. He was the most beautiful man she'd ever seen. "I'm pregnant," she said. The words hung in the air between them. Melvin's eyes widened. His mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. "You're pregnant." With a shaky hand, Laura held up the tests. "I took 3. They're all positive. I think it happened that first night, and I know this is so fast. And we never talked about timing or—" Melvin crossed the room in 2 long strides and silenced her with a kiss. It was deep and fierce, and full of everything that words couldn't express. When he pulled away, his eyes were glistening with emotion. "We're going to have a baby." The final word fractured as he said it. A disbelieving whisper escaped Laura's lips. "We're having a baby." A raw, choked laugh tore from Melvin's throat. "Oh, Laura. My God." He sank to the floor, resting his cheek against her belly. "Hey there, little one," he murmured. "It's your dad. I'm your dad." Tears streamed down Laura's face, dampening his hair as she cradled his head. This was the moment she hadn't dared to dream of. You're happy about this?" she managed to ask. He gazed up, his features completely remade by pure joy. "Happy isn't a big enough word for this. Laura, I love you. This is what I want. You are what I want. A family with you. Everything. I'm so scared," she confessed, her voice trembling. "My mom isn't here, and I don't know how I'm supposed to do any of this." "Then we learn how. Together," Melvin said, rising to frame her face with his hands. "You will never be alone in this. Not for a second. Do you understand?" She could only nod, a knot of emotion tightening in her throat. "When can we get more information? When is the first doctor's appointment?" Melvin's mind had already shifted into action, channeling the same intensity he used for corporate takeovers toward their child. "I have no idea. I literally saw the test 5 minutes before you walked through the door." "Right. Okay." Melvin inhaled deeply, centering himself. "I'm calling Dr. Morrison. She's considered the top obstetrician in all of Charleston and a close friend of my mother's. She'll see us immediately." "Melvin, and we have to let your aunt know, and of course, my mother. They'll be ecstatic." He was already on his feet, pacing the room, vibrating with a nervous energy. "The nursery. We have to start planning a nursery. Are you happy here, in this house? Or do we need a bigger place? Anything you want. Laura, your comfort is all that matters." She reached out and grabbed his hand, halting his frantic pacing. "Just breathe. There's plenty of time. I know. It's just—" His voice faltered. "My father. He never knew any of his grandchildren. He spent his life building a business empire and missed out on the only thing that truly counts. And now, I get to have that with you. I refuse to let a single moment slip by." "We won't," Laura vowed softly. "But for now, let's just accept that we're both stunned. Let's take a moment to let this sink in. Just process it." They drifted over to the bed and leaned back against the headboard. Melvin's hand found its way back to her belly, as if he could already sense the tiny existence within. After several quiet minutes, Laura asked, "What's going through your head?" His voice was subdued when he answered, "Just that I have to be a good dad, a much better one than the one I had. I want to be there, to be a part of everything. I can't let work make me miss a thing." "You are going to be a wonderful father," Laura said, her voice filled with a conviction that surprised even her. "You're so kind. You're patient. And you genuinely listen to people. That puts you ahead of most already. I'll read every single book. I'll go to every class. Anything you ask of me." A small smile touched Laura's lips, pushing through her anxiety. "I have no doubt you will." "Are you afraid?" he asked gently, completely terrified. She confessed, "What if I'm not cut out for this? What if I fail?" "You're more than enough already." Melvin placed a soft kiss on her temple. "And you won't be doing any of this by yourself. We're a team. Don't forget." "A team," Laura repeated. The word a comforting anchor. They remained like that for what felt like an eternity, their fingers laced together over the spot where their new life was beginning. Golden rays of morning light poured through the windows, bathing the room in a warm glow. Beyond the glass, the city of Charleston was stirring to life, but in here, their universe had been fundamentally altered. "I love you," Melvin said abruptly into the quiet. "Both of you." Laura felt her heart expand to the breaking point. "And we love you, too." Dr. Morrison managed to schedule them for that same afternoon. The clinic was a tranquil space, all muted blues and gentle creams. Laura's hands trembled as she completed the intake forms, Melvin's steady presence beside her, rubbing her back and murmuring words of comfort. "Is this your first pregnancy?" the nurse inquired warmly as she led them down the hall. "It is," Laura confirmed. "That's just wonderful." "All right. If you'll just get comfortable here, Dr. Morrison will join you in a moment." The examination room seemed stark and clinical, the lights overly harsh. Laura sat on the edge of the paper-covered table, the sound crinkling loudly as Melvin clutched her hand. "No matter what they say," he whispered, "we are fine. Our baby is fine. Everything is going to be all right." Laura desperately wanted to believe his words. Just then, Dr. Morrison entered, a woman in her 50s, who projected both warmth from her eyes and an air of no-nonsense capability. "Well, it sounds like some congratulations are due. Helen called me this morning. She's over the moon. By the way, you've already told your mother." Laura shot a look at Melvin. "I couldn't resist," he admitted with a sheepish grin. "I phoned her while you were changing. She was in tears." In spite of the tension, a laugh escaped Laura. "Naturally." "All right," Dr. Morrison said, turning from the sink after washing her hands. "Let's take a look at what's going on in there. Laura, if you could just recline for me. Fair warning, this will feel chilly." The ultrasound gel was shockingly cold on Laura's bare stomach. Melvin's grip on her hand tightened as the doctor began gliding the transducer over her belly. Suddenly, the room was filled with a new sound, a swift, steady thrumming, a powerful little heartbeat. "And there we have it," Dr. Morrison announced, gesturing toward the monitor. "One very healthy." "Hang on a moment." Laura's own heart seemed to seize in her chest. "Wait a second. What is it?" "Just a minute," Dr. Morrison murmured, repositioning the probe, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Oh, my..." "What?" Melvin was instantly on his feet, his voice sharp. "Is something wrong?" "No, nothing is wrong," the doctor replied, her serious expression dissolving into a brilliant smile. "It's just that you might want to rethink the size of that nursery. My sincerest congratulations. You too. You're expecting triplets." The word hung in the air, refusing to register. "Triplets. 3. I'm sorry. What did you say?" Laura heard her own voice, as if it were coming from down a long tunnel. "Triplets," Dr. Morrison repeated, tapping the screen. "Look here. 1, 2, and 3, each with a perfect, strong heartbeat. I'd estimate you're roughly 7 weeks along. Laura could only stare at the monitor, at the 3 minuscule, flickering shapes. 3 separate lives. 3 children. Oh my God. Melvin whispered the word. 3, there are 3 of them. That's right, the doctor confirmed. It's incredibly uncommon, particularly without any sort of fertility assistance. You're both exceptionally fortunate. Fortunate. The word ricocheted inside Laura's head, failing to find a place to stick. 3 infants, 3 beds to sleep in, 3 college funds. 3 of everything. The room began to tilt on its axis. Laura. Melvin's face swam into her focus. Sweetheart, you need to breathe slowly. You're starting to hyperventilate. 3. She choked out. Melvin? 3. How can we? I can't do this. Hey now. Listen to me. He held her face between his hands, making her meet his gaze. We can handle this. How? The question was a sob, as tears flooded her cheeks. I can hardly manage myself some days. How can I possibly be responsible for 3 tiny people? You'll have help, Dr. Morrison interjected softly. You'll have a support system, and you have the resources. From what your mother-in-law tells me, you're not lacking in either department. But the doctor's words were just noise. Laura's thoughts were a vortex of panic. 3 infants translated to a 3-fold increase in anxiety, in duty, in opportunities to get it wrong, to be a terrible mother, to fall short. I need some air, she announced abruptly. I just need... Before either of them could react, she had slid off the exam table, snatched her bag, and was heading for the exit. Laura, hold on, Melvin called after her. Just give me a second. She couldn't bear to look at him, to see the elation on his face while she was sinking in a sea of terror. Please, just a moment alone. She reached the parking garage, just as the full force of the panic attack crashed over her. Huddled in the passenger seat of Melvin's Range Rover, Laura fought for breath, her lungs refusing to cooperate. Her hands were trembling so violently, she couldn't even manage the simple task of grasping the handle. 3. How could there possibly be 3? The driver's side door swung open. Melvin got in beside her without a word. He simply leaned across the console and gathered her into his embrace. I'm right here, he whispered into her hair. Just breathe with me. In for a count of 4. Hold it. Now out for 4. Laura's ragged gasps tried to sync with his rhythm. She failed. She tried once more. Gradually, tortuously. Her breathing evened out. I'm sorry. She breathed against the fabric of his shirt. So sorry. For what? For being overwhelmed, for needing a minute. You're ecstatic and I just ruined it. You're terrified, Melvin stated, leaning back just enough to look at her. Laura, look at me. I'm terrified. 2, 3. It's mind-boggling. Wonderful. Yes, but completely insane. You are lost in her own fear. It hadn't occurred to her that he might be feeling the same way. I'm losing my mind. A shaky laugh escaped him. I was just getting my head around the idea of being a father to 1 child. Now there are 3. That's triple the opportunities for me to mess things up. 3 human beings who will count on me to be nothing like the man who raised me. You are not your father, Laura insisted with a sudden fire. And you, my love, are going to be a phenomenal mother. Melvin gently brushed away her tears with his thumbs. Even in the middle of a panic attack, your first thought is of them. That's what being a great mom is all about. But what if that isn't enough? Then we find a way. Together. His steady gray gaze locked with hers. Laura, I was serious before. You and me. We're a team. This just means our team is getting bigger, faster. We'll bring in help. Rely on our families. We'll do whatever is necessary. I don't want to just outsource their upbringing. Laura's voice broke. I don't want a team of nannies raising them while we're never home. I want to be there, to actually know who they are. I want that too. Melvin fell silent for a beat. What if I took a step back at work? What are you talking about? Not entirely. I could elevate my vice president to the CEO position, and I would remain as chairman of the board. It would mean fewer hours for me. I could be home more. He spoke as if this was an idea he had considered before. I've been searching for a catalyst to change my life. This is it. Melvin, you can't completely upend your career because I had a meltdown in a parking lot. This has nothing to do with your panic attack, he said, his voice firm and unwavering. This is because I saw my own father sacrifice his family and his health for a corporation, and he missed every important moment. I refuse to repeat his mistakes. Our children will have a father who is present, and their mother will have the freedom and support she needs to become the brilliant architect she was born to be. Do you truly believe that? She whispered. With all my heart. Melvin leaned in and kissed her tenderly. We are going to make this work. Laura, every single part of it. As a team. She relaxed against him, drawing strength from his conviction. The thought of 3 babies was still immense, still frightening, but wrapped in his embrace. The impossible was beginning to feel achievable. All right, she breathed. All right, we can do this. Yes, we can, Melvin affirmed. For the next 20 minutes, they stayed in the car, simply holding one another, voicing their fears, sketching out rough plans, and laying the groundwork for their new reality. By the time they arrived back at the house, Laura felt more grounded. She wasn't entirely serene. She suspected serenity might be off the table for the next 18 years, but she was no longer adrift. We need to call my Aunt Patricia, Laura said, as the car rolled to a stop in the driveway, before your mom broadcasts it to the whole city. Melvin chuckled. He had a point. Sunday dinner it was. Laura consented. Later that evening, as she lay in bed with Melvin's palm resting gently on her belly, she let her imagination take over. 3 little ones, her babies, a family forged from affection and sorrow, and the strength to begin anew. Thank you, she breathed into the quiet room. For what? For not bolting, for sticking by me, for wanting this, even when it's utterly terrifying. Laura. Melvin's voice was heavy with feeling. There is nowhere on earth I would rather be. This, right here, with you, our children, the life we're creating together. It's my entire world. You are my entire world. Laura turned in his embrace, her kiss a whirlwind of all the love, fear, and hope tangled inside her. Outside, the city of Charleston was asleep. Inside, 3 minuscule hearts pulsed in time with her own. And for the very first time since those lines appeared on the test, Laura allowed herself to truly feel it. Joy. It was a pure, frightening, and overwhelming joy. They were expecting triplets, and impossibly, against all odds, everything was going to be all right. The Sunday meal at her Aunt Patricia's was supposed to be a moment of celebration. Laura had pictured it 1,000 times. She imagined the delight on her aunt's face, the joyful tears, and all the plans they would make together. 3 great-grandbabies for the woman who had sacrificed so much to raise Laura all by herself. Instead, Patricia stood motionless in her kitchen, a wooden spoon dripping gravy onto the tile. "Triplets," she echoed, as if the word were from a foreign language. "You're expecting 3 babies at the same time?" "Yes, ma'am," Laura replied, squeezing Melvin's hand under the table. "The doctor confirmed it. All 3 of them are healthy." With trembling hands, Patricia set the spoon down. She made her way to the sink, gripping the edge until her knuckles turned white, and stared out at the small backyard where Laura's mother used to grow gardenias. The silence stretched on for far too long. "Aunt Patricia." Laura's voice was barely audible. "Please, say something." When Patricia finally turned, Laura saw an expression that made her stomach plummet. It wasn't joy, but pure fear. "Do you remember what your mother went through?" Patricia asked softly. Laura's blood turned to ice. "What?" "When your mom was pregnant with you." Patricia's eyes glistened with tears. "She almost didn't make it. Laura, severe high blood pressure, preeclampsia, an emergency C-section at 32 weeks. You were in the NICU for 6 weeks. She was never able to have more children after you." The room seemed to tilt. "She never told me because she didn't want to frighten me." Patricia moved toward Laura and took her hands. "But sweetheart, you're carrying 3. 3 babies means the risk is tripled. Your mother's body couldn't safely handle 1 pregnancy. What if yours can't? Either?" "Patricia." Melvin interjected. "I am not trying to scare you," Patricia insisted, though her voice quivered. "I'm trying to make sure you're prepared. Pregnancies with triplets are extremely high risk. The chances of complications, of premature labor, of—" Her voice broke. "I've already lost my sister. I cannot bear to lose you, too." Laura felt as if she couldn't get any air. All the anxieties she had been suppressing came roaring back to life. What if her aunt was right? What if her body wasn't capable of this? What if she died, leaving Melvin alone with 3 infants? Melvin's arm wrapped around her. "Breathe. Your doctor said you're perfectly healthy. Everything is fine for now." "For now," Patricia repeated. "But you're still in the early stages. So many things could go wrong. Then we will face them." Melvin's tone was resolute. "With the top doctors, the best possible care. Whatever is necessary to ensure the safety of Laura and the babies. Money can't solve every problem," Patricia said gently. "No," Melvin conceded. "But it can afford the finest medical attention in the nation. Laura is already under the care of maternal fetal medicine specialists. Dr. Morrison referred us to Dr. Reynolds at MUSC. He's considered one of the leading high-risk obstetricians in the Southeast. Laura will have checkups twice a week as soon as she reaches 20 weeks. We are not leaving anything to chance." Patricia studied him for a long, quiet moment. "You truly love her." "More than anything," Melvin said simply. Patricia nodded slowly, then pulled Laura into a powerful hug. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I didn't want to frighten you. I'm just so worried. You are all I have left of my sister." "I know," Laura whispered, holding her aunt tightly. "But I'm going to be all right. We are going to be all right." She said it with far more certainty than she actually felt. The next 6 weeks were a dizzying haze of medical appointments and escalating worry. Laura's body was transforming rapidly. By mid-June, at only 13 weeks, she already looked 5 months along. Her back was in constant pain. She felt utterly drained, all the time. Simple things, like walking up a flight of stairs, left her gasping for air. This is completely normal with triplets, Dr. Reynolds assured her at a checkup. Your body is working 3 times as hard. Everything you're feeling is well within the expected range. Being within the expected range didn't make it any less difficult. Melvin was flawless, attentive, supportive, and constantly asking what he could do for her. He had officially stepped down from his day-to-day role at Anderson Global Properties, promoting his VP, James, to CEO, while he remained as chairman. He worked from his home office most days, always there whenever Laura needed him. Yet, Laura could see the immense strain he was under. His phone rang incessantly. Board members sought his counsel. Investors fretted over the leadership change. James called with problems that only Melvin could solve. And through it all, Melvin would just smile and say it was fine. He had chosen this path. Family was his priority. But Laura saw him staring at his laptop screen well past midnight. She saw the tension etched in his shoulders. She heard the frustration in his voice when yet another crisis erupted. The thought began to creep into her mind, and then it took hold. She was destroying his life. Melvin had dedicated 15 years to building an empire. And now, he was taking it apart because she had gotten pregnant, because her body couldn't manage 1 baby and had created 3 instead. You are being completely irrational, Sienna declared when Laura finally gave voice to these anxieties. They were eating at Claudia's restaurant, while Melvin was in an emergency board meeting. That man absolutely adores you. He made the choice to step back. He was forced to step back. Laura corrected her. Because I'm already having a hard time. And we're only 3 months in. What's going to happen at 6 months or 8? When I'm stuck on bed rest, and he has to handle absolutely everything. Then he'll handle everything, Sienna said, squeezing her hand. Laura, that is what partners are for. You would do the same for him. But would she? Laura wasn't so certain anymore. Everything felt off. Her body felt like it belonged to someone else. Her career was at a standstill. She had passed her active projects to her associates because she was too exhausted to maintain focus. Her relationship with Melvin felt less like a partnership and more like he was her full-time caregiver. She was so weary. A deep, pervasive tiredness, mixed with the fear that the endless doctor visits, the anxiety, the physical limitations, was merely the beginning. Her breaking point arrived on a Tuesday in late June. Laura was at home alone, trying to work on design edits for the cotton exchange project when the pain began. It was sharp, sudden, and shot through her abdomen like a bolt of lightning. She gasped, her pencil falling from her hand. The pain came again, stronger this time, and then again. No, no, please no, Laura whispered, her hands shaking as she fumbled for her phone. She tried calling Melvin, but it went to his voicemail. He was in a board meeting, a very important one about a massive acquisition that required his final approval. The pain grew more intense. Laura called Dr. Reynolds' office, and the receptionist told her to go to the emergency room immediately. Unable to drive, Laura hailed an Uber. She sent a text to Melvin. At the hospital. Something is wrong. Come as soon as you can. The drive to MUSC Medical Center felt like an eternity. Laura kept a hand pressed to her stomach, tears streaming down her face as she pleaded with 3 tiny lives to hold on. Please, please don't leave me. Not yet. Please. The ER team took her back immediately. More ultrasounds, more of the cold, slick gel, a different doctor with a somber expression. And then, finally, the words, "The babies are fine. All 3 heartbeats are strong." Laura collapsed into sobs of relief. You are having Braxton Hicks contractions. The doctor explained. They are practice contractions. Completely normal. Especially when carrying multiples. Your body is just getting ready for what's to come. So, nothing is wrong. Nothing at all. But with triplets, they can be more powerful and start much earlier. You need to rest more, stay hydrated, and avoid stress. Avoid stress. Laura almost laughed out loud. She was in the waiting area, about to be discharged, when Melvin burst through the doors. Laura. He looked pale, breathing heavily as if he'd run all the way from the parking garage. Are you okay, the babies? We're fine, Laura said, rising slowly. It was a false alarm. Just practice contractions. The relief that washed over his face was so intense it was almost painful to see. Thank God. Melvin let out a long breath and pulled her into his arms. When I saw your text, God. Laura, I thought, I know, she whispered, holding him tightly. I'm so sorry I scared you. Don't apologize. Pulling back to cup her face in his hands. Never apologize. Are you absolutely sure you're okay? What did the doctor tell you? Laura recounted the entire ordeal, while Melvin hung on her every word, asking questions, making mental notes, being utterly perfect, just like always. And Laura could feel the resentment beginning to fester. You left your board meeting, she said as they walked toward his car. Of course I did. Melvin, that was the acquisition meeting, the one you said was critical. You are more critical, he stated, opening her door and helping her inside. The meeting can wait, can it? Though, Laura's voice was sharper than she had intended. Because your phone has been ringing off the hook for weeks. Because James calls you every single day with new problems. Because you may have officially stepped aside. But you're still running the entire show. Melvin shut her door and walked around to his side. When he got in, his jaw was clenched. What do you want me to say? Laura, I want you to admit that this is incredibly hard for you. That stepping away from the company you built from the ground up is killing you. That you resent me. I don't resent anything. Melvin interrupted. I chose this. I want this, but you miss it. Laura's voice cracked. I see you on those conference calls. Melvin, you come alive when you're talking about deals and properties and expansion plans. That's your life's work. Melvin, you're calling. And now you're tethered to me, to our home, to my false labor pains and endless trips to the doctor. And you, he said with a fierce intensity, are my calling. You and our children. That's my whole world now. Laura, it's everything I want. But it wasn't the life you planned for, she whispered. This wasn't what either of us saw coming. And I'm terrified that one day you'll wake up and see the scale of what you've given up, what I've cost you. You haven't cost me a thing. Melvin's grip on the steering wheel was so tight, his knuckles shone bone white. I've gained everything that matters. Have you really? The question slipped out, the first of many she could no longer hold back. The fear, the exhaustion, the suffocating guilt all came pouring out of her. Because from my perspective, you've abandoned your empire to become my caretaker, to manage my body's utter failure to sustain a simple pregnancy, to just stop. Melvin's voice was a sharp crack in the tension. Do not talk about yourself that way. But it's the truth, isn't it? Hot tears streamed down her cheeks. My body is already failing. And we're only 3 months into this. Aunt Patricia was right. What if I can't carry them to term? What if this all ends in tragedy, and your entire sacrifice was for absolutely nothing? It could never be for nothing. His voice cracked with emotion. Laura, I love you. I love these babies. No outcome could ever change that fundamental truth. But this isn't what you signed on for, Laura insisted. You wanted a partner, a life of love and adventure, not a broken woman who can't even get through pregnancy without completely falling apart. You are not broken. He reached for her, but she flinched away. Am I not? I'm bone-tired all the time. I can't focus on work. Every tiny cramp sends me into a panic. I am living in a constant state of terror. What happens when it gets even harder? When the doctors confine me to bed? Or I end up in the hospital? Or, her breath caught in her throat, when you're left pacing a sterile waiting room, wondering if I'm going to die, just like my mother almost did. The car was suddenly choked with a heavy, suffocating silence. Is that what you're truly afraid of? Melvin asked, his voice barely a whisper. That you'll die. I'm afraid of 100 different things, Laura admitted, wiping at her wet face. But the thing that scares me the most is that you'll finally realize none of this is worth it. That I'm not worth it. How can you even say that? The agony in his voice was raw. Laura, you are my everything. The only thing that matters. Am I? She challenged. Or am I a new responsibility you've taken on? An obligation you have to see through because you're a good man, and that's just what good men do. That is not. Melvin stopped, his jaw clenched tight. You know that's not what this is. Do I? She turned to stare out the window. Because right now, I feel like a liability. The complication that ruined the perfect life you were supposed to have. My life was never perfect, Melvin countered. Before you, it was completely empty. But now it's chaotic and messy, and so incredibly hard. Laura's voice sank to a faint whisper, and I'm not sure that love is enough to fix all of that. Melvin remained silent for a long, painful moment. When he finally found his voice, it was hollowed out. What are you trying to say? Laura, I don't know. She couldn't bring herself to look at him. I have to think. Think about what a sharp edge of panic entered his tone. About us. Are you thinking about whether you still want this? About whether it's fair to you, Laura said, her voice trembling. To ask you to sacrifice your entire world for this. For me. Fair. A bitter, humorless laugh escaped his lips. Do you really think fairness even factors into this, Laura? I would give it all up 1,000 times over if it meant I could build a future with you. That isn't a sacrifice. That is a choice. And it's the wrong one. Laura whispered, convinced of it. One day, you're going to see that too. She pushed the car door open before he could argue. Laura, wait. I need some space. Every movement was an ache as she climbed out of the car. I have to sort this out on my own, without you swooping in to fix it. Without you being so damned perfect that it just makes me feel worse for not being more grateful. I'm not trying to be perfect, Melvin said, his voice shattering. I am just trying to love you. Maybe that's the core of the problem. Laura forced her feet to move toward the hospital doors. Maybe love just isn't enough when everything else is completely shattered. Laura, please. She didn't stop. Hearing his car door slam shut and his heavy footsteps pounding the pavement behind her. Don't you follow me? She called out without looking back. I'm having Sienna come get me. Just go home. Melvin, go to your meeting. Get back to your life. You are my life. He called back, his voice thick with desperation. Laura finally pivoted to face him, committing every detail to memory. His slate gray eyes, glistening with tears, his hair, a mess from where he'd anxiously run his hands through it, the profound devastation that marked every line on his face. Then maybe that's what I'm truly afraid of. she whispered, because I have no idea how to be the center of someone's universe. I can barely manage to hold my own life together. She turned and walked into the hospital, unable to watch his heart break all the way. Sienna found her 20 minutes later, huddled in a bathroom stall, crying so violently she could barely draw a breath. "Okay," Sienna said, wrapping her in a tight embrace. "Tell me everything. What on earth happened?" Laura recounted it all. The contractions, the rush to the hospital, the explosive fight in the parking lot, and the cruel words she'd hurled at him that she knew she could never take back. "I've ruined it." Laura sobbed into her friend's shoulder. "I have completely destroyed everything." "You're scared." Sienna corrected her gently. "There's a very big difference. I told him love wasn't enough. I told him I needed to get away from him." "Sienna," the look in his eyes, "he will get it. Once you've calmed down and can actually talk to him, he will understand. But what if he doesn't? What if that was the final straw?" Sienna grew quiet for a moment. "Then you earn his forgiveness. But Laura, you have to figure out what's really driving this fear. Because this isn't about whether Melvin loves you enough. This is about whether you can accept that you deserve to be loved that much." Laura squeezed her eyes shut. "My mother nearly died giving birth to me. What if I die giving birth to them? What if Melvin ends up a single father to 3 infants? And it's all my fault. What if you live?" Sienna cut in sharply. "What if you have a perfectly fine delivery and you're putting yourself through all this agony for nothing? What if you are about to push away the single best thing in your life because you're too terrified to allow yourself to be happy?" Laura had no response. Sienna drove her to her Aunt Patricia's, to a house filled with familiar comforts and the lingering ghost of her mother's presence, hoping for guidance. Patricia saw the devastation on her face and immediately opened her arms. "I am so sorry," Patricia whispered into her hair, "for what I said about your mother. I let my own fear speak, and I put that burden on you. It wasn't fair of me. You were right, though." Laura mumbled, "This is a dangerous situation, and I'm dragging Melvin down right along with me." "No, my sweet girl." Patricia leaned back, cupping Laura's face in her hands. "You are building a family. That's not about dragging someone down. That's about lifting each other up. But what if you stop asking, 'What if?' and start putting your trust in him?" Patricia's tone was gentle but firm. "That man adores you. He chose you, and he chose those babies. It's time you stop trying to unmake that choice for him." Laura spent the night in her childhood bedroom, a ghost in a museum of her own memories. She didn't reach out to Melvin, didn't call or text. Just lay awake in the oppressive darkness, a hand resting on her swelling belly, wondering how something so miraculous had become so twisted and painful. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Melvin. "I'm here whenever you're ready. No pressure at all. I just need you to know that I am not going anywhere. I love you. I love our babies. And I am not giving up on us. Even if you think I should." Laura read the words 17 times before she finally cried herself to sleep. She awoke with the dawn in her childhood room, her hand instinctively on her belly, and was hit with the soul-crushing certainty that she had made a terrible, terrible mistake. The babies were stirring, faint flutters like the first flight of tiny butterflies, 3 little heartbeats that were oblivious to her anxieties, her insecurities, or her misguided attempts to shield Melvin from her own perceived shortcomings. They simply were, a testament to a love that was growing, and they deserved far better than a mother who would push away the man who adored them all so completely. Laura reached for her phone. Melvin's text from the night before seemed to glow on the screen. "I'm not giving up on us. Even if you think I should." Her hands trembled as she typed. I'm sorry. I am so unbelievably sorry. Can we please talk? A reply came through in seconds. I'm outside. Laura's heart seized in her chest. She threw on the clothes from the day before and hurried down the stairs. Peeking through the living room window, she saw his Range Rover parked at the curb. He was perched on the hood, looking haggard and sleepless, as if he'd kept watch all night long, which she knew, with a painful certainty. He had. Laura stepped out into the crisp June morning. Melvin immediately stood up as he saw her, and the look of raw, unguarded hope on his face was enough to shatter her all over again. Hi, she whispered. Hi. His voice was rough with fatigue. I know you asked for space, but I couldn't bring myself to leave. I had to be close. In case you needed anything. You've been out here the entire night. I wouldn't have slept a wink anyway. Melvin raked a hand through his already messy hair. Laura, I'm sorry. The words came tumbling out of her in a rush. I am so sorry for every single thing I said. For pushing you away. For ever making you feel like I didn't want this. I was terrified, and I made you the target of my fear, and that was so unfair. You don't have to apologize for being scared. Melvin said softly. This whole situation is scary. I'm terrified, too. But you didn't bolt. I did. Laura's eyes welled with fresh tears. I have been running from anything good my entire life because I'm convinced it will eventually disappear. And yesterday, I came dangerously close to destroying the best thing that has ever happened to me because I just couldn't believe I deserved it. Melvin closed the gap between them, his hands gently cupping her face. Laura Scott, you deserve every wonderful thing this world has to give, and I am begging you. Please let me be the person who gives it all to you. But what if something goes wrong? Laura whispered, her voice fragile. What if I can't handle this? What if? Then we will handle it together. Melvin's thumbs gently brushed away her tears. That's what being together means. It's not just for the good times. It's for all of it. The fear, the hurt, the happiness, the love. Every last bit of it. I don't want you to resent me, Laura said, for turning your life upside down, for making you walk away from the company you built from scratch. I didn't walk away. I reorganized. Melvin's deep gray eyes locked with hers. And do you know what I realized while I was sitting out here all night? I spent 15 years trying to build something that would make my father proud. But in all that time, I completely forgot to build something that would make me proud. A life, a family, a kind of love that's worth more than any amount of money could ever be. Your company is important, Laura said softly. Your work matters. So does this. Melvin gently placed his hand over hers, where it rested on her belly. So do you, Laura. Money, buildings, deals. They're all replaceable. But you're not. This family we're starting is a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and I refuse to let it pass me by. But you crave the work, Laura countered. I see the spark in your eyes whenever James is on the phone. When the board requests your input, you come alive. Yeah, I do, Melvin admitted with a wistful smile. I'm passionate about what I do. I won't deny that. But passion doesn't have to mean total consumption. That's a lesson my father never understood. I'm determined not to repeat his failures. So what if we find some middle ground? Laura suggested. What if you don't withdraw entirely? You could remain engaged with the aspects you're passionate about, but establish clear boundaries. Be fully here when you're with me, but don't carry guilt for excelling at your job. You would be all right with that. I'd be more than all right, Laura said, melting into his embrace. The last thing I want is for you to lose a part of yourself for my sake. I want to create a life together where we both feel happy, fulfilled, and complete. That's all I want, too, Melvin whispered, kissing her gently. My God, Laura, I want that more than anything. Then take me home, Laura murmured. Please, I just want to be home. Melvin gathered her into his arms, cradling her as if she were the most precious thing in the world. Let's go home, he agreed. The subsequent 4 months became an ordeal. The pregnancy was fraught with challenges, though they were all surmountable. Bed rest began at 28 weeks, followed by weekly checkups, blood pressure surveillance, and medications to stave off preeclampsia. Dr. Reynolds was ever watchful, intercepting every potential problem before it could escalate. And Melvin was by her side through every single step. He began working from home 3 days a week and went into the office on the other 2. He was present for every single medical visit, posing the questions Laura was too afraid to voice, and taking detailed notes as if their children's survival depended on it. He brought in a private nurse to be with Laura during the times he had to be away. He even taught himself to prepare the meals recommended in all the pregnancy guides. Each evening, he would massage her swollen feet while they watched mindless reality shows, sharing easy laughter. He loved her through all the anxiety. Aunt Patricia made a point to visit every Sunday, sometimes even more frequently. She would arrive with meals, share anecdotes about Laura's mother, and simply hold Laura's hand on the particularly difficult days. She and Melvin became a team, 2 individuals singularly focused on ensuring Laura made it through this safely. Helen Anderson evolved into a surrogate mother. She would appear with gifts of baby necessities, offer decor suggestions, and share pearls of wisdom from her experience raising Melvin. She was never overbearing, never critical. She just offered unconditional love. Sienna was the ray of sunshine they all desperately needed. The baby shower she organized brought tears of pure joy to Laura's eyes. She would send silly memes just to lighten the mood. She drew strength from his daily reassurances, his deep voice a constant reminder that she was more than capable of handling this. The nursery didn't just come together. It was a masterpiece unveiled. 3 exquisite cribs stood ready, surrounded by walls of a delicate, cloud-like gray. An artist had spent weeks painting a celestial dreamscape across the ceiling. He hadn't just followed instruction manuals. He had personally overseen every detail, sculpting a perfect haven where their children would begin their lives. And in the safety of his arms, Laura allowed hope to bloom. The crisp air of early November swept in, carrying with it a palpable sense of excitement that filled their home. At 33 weeks pregnant, she was beautifully round, gloriously uncomfortable, and utterly captivated by a love more profound than anything she had ever dared to dream of. They'll be arriving soon, Dr. Reynolds announced at an appointment. Your body is making its final preparations. Our goal is 34 weeks, but multiples rarely stick to a schedule. Don't stray too far from the hospital. That evening, Laura and Melvin were in bed, his hand resting on her stomach as their babies tumbled and kicked. I have something I need to tell you, Melvin said softly. Laura's heart leaped. What is it? I've been planning something. A surprise. He pushed himself up, reaching for the drawer of his nightstand. I intended to wait until after the babies were born, but I just can't. It has to be now. He produced a small box covered in velvet. Laura's breathing hitched. Melvin, Laura Scott, the instant you collided with me on King Street, I started falling for you. Melvin flipped open the box, unveiling a breathtaking ring. It was an emerald-cut diamond, elegant and flawless. I loved you when you debated architecture with a passion that made it seem like the most important thing in the universe. I loved you when you wept over the memory of your mom. I loved you through every anxiety attack, every day of bed rest, every single terrifying moment. And I will continue to love you for every day of my life. Tears traced paths down Laura's cheeks. Melvin, let me finish. His voice was heavy with emotion. I'm aware we did everything out of order. We met. We fell in love. We created 3 lives before I had the chance to ask you this the right way. But I'm asking you now, Laura. Will you be my wife? Will you agree to build this chaotic, wonderful, and intricate life with me for all time? Yes. The word escaped as a sob. Yes, yes, yes. With trembling hands, Melvin slipped the ring onto her finger. Then he kissed her as if they had an eternity. I love you. Laura breathed against his mouth. I love you more than words can say. I love you too. Both of you. All 5 of us. Melvin's hand splayed protectively over her belly. We are going to be all right. Laura, I promise you. And for the very first time since seeing those positive tests, Laura actually believed it. The babies made their debut 3 days later. Laura's water broke at 2 in the morning. Before she could even register what was happening, Melvin was a blur of motion, grabbing the hospital bag and phoning Dr. Reynolds. He guided Laura to the car with a steady grip, though a flicker of panic was visible in his eyes. It's too soon, Laura gasped, as another contraction seized her. 3 weeks is just too soon. Dr. Reynolds said, 33 is great for triplets. Melvin reminded her, navigating the deserted Charleston streets with careful speed. They're big enough, and they're strong enough. It's all going to be okay. The hospital was a whirlwind of activity. Nurses, beeping monitors, IV, drips. Dr. Reynolds materialized, exuding calm competence, and explained that a C-section was the safest course of action. 3 babies in 3 different positions made a natural delivery far too hazardous. You are going to be fine, Dr. Reynolds stated with conviction. All 4 of you. Trust me. As they prepared her for the operating room, Laura's eyes found Melvin's. I'm so scared. Me too, he confessed, pressing a kiss to her forehead. But we're in this together. You can do this. You are the most resilient person I have ever known. Laura Scott, soon to be Laura Anderson, she murmured. The smile he gave her was bright enough to illuminate the entire building. The surgery was a surreal blend of terror and wonder. Laura was conscious, aware of a pulling sensation, but no pain. She could hear Melvin's voice, a constant stream of encouragement by her ear. And then, the sound of a baby's cry. Baby A has arrived, Dr. Reynolds declared. A beautiful boy. Another cry followed, this one higher. Baby B, another boy. And then, the faintest cry of the 3. Baby C, you have a daughter. Laura was sobbing. Melvin was sobbing. The room was alive with the sounds of 3 brand new humans making their presence known. All of them are healthy, Dr. Reynolds reported with a smile, breathing on their own. Excellent weights. You did it. Laura, they're absolutely perfect. While the surgical team finished, they brought the babies to Laura. One by one, 2 sons and a daughter, each one so impossibly tiny and utterly gorgeous. Hi, Laura whispered to her firstborn. I'm your mommy. I'm your mommy. The infant's eyes fluttered open, revealing the same gray as his father's. He gazed at her with a look of recognition, as if he had been waiting his entire short existence just to see her. Laura felt her heart expand with a love so fierce it was almost painful. "What should we name them?" Melvin asked, tears coursing down his cheeks as he cradled their daughter. For months, they had tossed names back and forth without settling on any. But now, seeing those three little faces, the choices were obvious. "This one is Theodore," Laura said, gently stroking her first son's cheek. "For your father, Robert Theodore James Anderson. And this one is Miles," Melvin declared, gazing at their second son, Miles Scott Anderson. "For your amazing mother." Their daughter came last, so delicate, so flawless, with fine, dark hair and her mother's mouth. "Maya," Laura said tenderly. "Maya Patricia Anderson, named for the women who showed us what love truly is. Theodore, Miles, and Maya." Melvin echoed. "Our family, our family," Laura repeated softly. The initial weeks were pure chaos. 3 infants meant 3 different feeding routines, 3 times the diapers, and a 3-fold increase in sleep deprivation. But it also brought 3 times the love, 3 times the happiness, and 3 times the precious moments that made it all worthwhile. Aunt Patricia moved in for a while. She was a lifesaver, running the household as Laura recuperated and got the hang of nursing. Helen visited every day, bringing food and sage advice. Sienna set up a meal delivery service that kept them nourished for weeks. And Melvin was a constant presence, handling diaper changes at 3 in the morning. He rocked fussy babies and took over the night shifts so Laura could get some sleep. He worked from his home office, taking important calls with a baby carrier strapped to his chest, somehow managing a billion-dollar enterprise while being a completely hands-on dad. "How are you managing all of this?" Laura asked him one evening, watching him calm Maya while simultaneously typing an email with one hand. "Love gives you superpowers," Melvin replied matter-of-factly, "and I have some excellent backup." He gestured with his head toward Theodore, who was sleeping soundly on Laura's chest, and Miles, who was passed out in his bassinet. "We're a great team," Laura said. "The absolute best," Melvin confirmed. Their wedding took place on a Sunday in the middle of November, just 2 weeks after the babies were discharged from the hospital. It was nothing grand or extravagant, just their closest family and friends gathered in the backyard of their Battery District home, surrounded by string lights and the colors of fall. Laura chose a simple white dress that was forgiving to her recovering body. Melvin, dressed in a navy suit, choked up during his vows. "I vow to love you through the exhaustion and the pandemonium," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Through the middle of the night feedings, the diaper explosions, and every wonderful, chaotic moment of this life we are creating, I promise to be engaged, to be there, to put you and our family first, every single day. I vow to let you love me," Laura said, her own tears falling, "to stop resisting good things, and to accept that I am worthy of this joy. I promise to be your true partner in all things, through the frightening times and the wonderful times and all the moments we can't yet foresee. I promise to build this life with you, Melvin, now and forever." Aunt Patricia wept. Helen wept. Tears streamed down Sienna's face as she cradled Theodore, trying to juggle the wedding video on her phone. And just as Melvin kissed his wife on screen, their 3 babies, nestled in the arms of their loving family, made soft cooing sounds as if in celebration. Half a year later, Laura was in her home studio, adding the final meticulous details to the Cotton Exchange renovation designs. The project had been put on hold until the triplets were 3 months old. Laura had found her rhythm, working part-time to perfectly balance the joys of motherhood with the career she adored. Through the baby monitor, She could hear Melvin serenading the triplets with silly, improvised songs about Charleston, sailboats, and their love story. Theodore's giggle rang out. Maya cooed, and Miles blew a bubbly raspberry. Her family. Laura caught her reflection in the studio glass and saw her mother's eyes staring back. But this time, there was no sadness, only an overwhelming sense of pride. "I did it, Mom," she whispered. "I'm really doing it, and I think you would be proud." Outside, spring had breathed new life into Charleston. The gardenias bloomed profusely in the garden Melvin had planted in her mother's memory. The Phoenix rocked placidly in its slip at the marina, waiting for the day they would take 3 little sailors out on the water. Life was a chaotic, exhausting, beautiful mess, perfect in all its imperfection. Laura saved her work and followed the sound of her husband and babies, walking toward the laughter, the chaos, and a love so immense it filled every corner of their home. She had been paralyzed by the fear of becoming a mother without her own mom to guide her. But she had come to understand a truth her mother surely always knew: love was the only compass that truly mattered. A love that is always present, a love that endures, a love that chooses joy even when fear is screaming. And Laura had an infinite amount of that love to give. "Look who's here," Melvin said softly as she walked into the nursery. "We missed you." Theodore reached for her with his chubby little hands. Miles flashed his toothless smile. Maya made eager, grasping motions toward her mother's face. "I missed you too," Laura said, gathering her children into her arms. "All of you." Melvin wrapped his arms around them, holding his entire family, his wife, his children, his whole world. "A perfect moment," he murmured. "Let's remember this one." "I will," Laura promised herself, "for all time." And she knew it was true. She would remember every joy, every conquered fear, every single moment she chose love instead of doubt. She would remember it all. Because this messy, gorgeous, miraculous life was the one she was destined to build. Not on her own, but with the man who had crashed into her world and changed everything. With 3 tiny humans who taught her that love was always, always more than enough. With family who had held her up when she thought she would fall. With the faith that even when things felt terrifying, they were going to be all right. Laura looked at her husband, her children, and the life they had built from courage, hope, and a relentless love. "We did a good thing," she said. Melvin kissed her temple. "We did a great thing," son. And in the soft spring light of their Charleston home, surrounded by a love that had triumphed over fear, doubt, and every obstacle, the Anderson family began another beautiful, ordinary day together. Thank you so much for joining us all the way to the end. If this story resonated with you, the next one is going to pull you in even deeper. It's more daring, more shocking, and filled with twists you will never see coming. Don't let it pass you by. Tap the video on your screen right now and continue this incredible journey.